Welcome everyone to Richmond Valley Council's March Ordinary Council meeting. I'll start the meeting off with the acknowledgement of country. Richmond Valley Council recognises the people of the Bundjalung Nations as custodians and traditional owners of this land, and we value and appreciate the continuing cultural connections to the lands, their living culture and their unique role in the life of this region in the past, present and future. Mr General Manager, would read the prayer, please.
Dear Lord, we meet to serve our community, to use our resources wisely and well, to represent all members of our community fairly, to make decisions that promote the common good. We recognise our responsibility to the past and the future, and the rights and needs of both individuals and community. As trusted servants, we seek blessings on our deliberations and on our efforts here today. May we act wisely and well. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Item 3, public access and question time. We have one request for public access today, and that's from Mr Adrian Zakaris from Newton, Denny and Chappell. Would you like to come forward, please, Adrian? Welcome back, and I'm sure that you know the rules after last meeting, so when you're ready, go straight ahead. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak in favour of the alternative decision of approval provided by council staff in relation to the proposed subdivision between 36 and 38 Mangrove Street, Evans Head. It is noted that no public submissions were received during the exhibition of the proposal. The proposed lot sizes are consistent with the development pattern in the locality, with at least 15 lots within the immediate vicinity below the minimum lot size. Clause 4.1c of the LEP provides a mechanism for smaller lots to be created in the locality. The proposal will allow the owner of number 38 to bring the current dwelling into compliance with Council's DCP and the current BCA and fire separation requirements. The owner has also advised that the footings encroach over the boundary. The proposal does not diminish the development potential of the larger allotment, being number 36, as a 611 square metre block realistically can only be developed as an attached dual occupancy. The reduced lot size of approximately 500 square metres also has ability for an attached dual occupancy, so the public benefit is not compromised. It has been demonstrated that there is sufficient environmental planning grounds to approve the proposal and the variation to minimum lot size standards, and this is warranted in the circumstances of this case. Happy to answer any questions.
Any question, councillors? No questions. Thank you very much. You've done a good job by the looks of it. Thanks very much. Apologies. There are no apologies. Everyone's present. Mayoral minute. There is no mayoral minute. Confirmation of the minutes. First one is 6.1, Internal Audit and Risk Committee minutes, 2nd of February 2021. Can I get a mover, please?
Moved.
Councillor Simpson. Seconder. Councillor Lyons. Councillor Simpson. Nothing. Any other councillors? Put that motion. 6.2, minutes ordinary meeting held at the 16th of February. We have, before we get a mover and a seconder, Mr General Manager, there are a couple of adjustments I'd like you to mention, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Just in relation to item 16.2 regarding the South Ballina Beach closure, which is on
page 25.
Page 25 of the attachments. We just made a couple of minor adjustments to the executive summary there to reflect some feedback that we received from Ballina in the wording that was in our report. So we just reflected that in the amended executive summary, where it says that Ballina Shire Council would like the South Ballina beaches closed to vehicles. And in the last sentence, we've said that the decision by Ballina Council to seek the closure of the beaches was due to poor driver behaviour and environmental impacts. So the distinction there being that they don't have the power themselves to close all of those accesses, but they have sought from the Crown that they do that. There have been discussions subsequent to the last meeting around that. The aim had been to have that in place by Easter. On the beaches in the Ballina Shire. Whether that's achieved or not, we're not sure because there is a consultation process they need to go through. However, we are moving forward with the arrangements that Council resolved for our Council to implement for Air Force Beach.
Thank you. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the accuracy, please?
Move that
Councillor
way.
Humphries, seconder. Councillor Lyons. Is everyone satisfied with that update? I'll put that motion in. All those in favour? Carried. Item 7 on page 8, matters arising out of those minutes. Is any councillor?
Just in
Simpson?
relation to 16.6, which is naming of the roads associated with the Pacific Highway project, just wondering if council, there were a couple of signs incorrectly erected by RMS on on the corner of Woodburn-Corrocky Road and the Pacific Highway, and Alfred Street and the Pacific Highway, which both had signs up as Tuckambill Way or Tuckambill Road. Just wondering if the council was aware if they've been removed.
Director Joan?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'm not quite sure whether they have been removed, but we certainly made representations to Transport for New South Wales to have them removed. I haven't been down that way for a week or so, so I don't know whether they're still there.
I meant to check on the way up, but I forgot. So that just may be something we can check.
Let's just note that as an action to check that the next day or two and get back to councillors, but also, if that hasn't happened, a reminder to Transport for New South Wales. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other item?
Yes, Mr Mayor. As you know, I wasn't here at the last meeting. I'd just like to thank the support for passing the notice of motion from last month.
Thank you. Any other items? Declarations of interest. Councillor, if anyone got any declarations? Mr General Manager, staff, or you?
No, I haven't received any.
Thank you. I'll let you go again.
Actually, I will declare an interest in the closed council section, item 20.4, which does relate to my annual performance review. Thanks, Mr Mayor, for reminding me of that. I'd certainly declare an interest and will definitely leave the room for that item.
Petitions as nil. Item 10, notice of motion nil. Mayor's reports, I'll move that. Can I get a second, please? Councillor Morrissey. Any discussion or items?
Yes, Mr Mayor. On the 24th of February, Casino Swimming Pool Working Group meeting. Just in relation to all the working group happy with the progress?
Yes.
If you want to elaborate on that, Mr Mayor?
It was just our first meeting. This is the Rapville Advisory Committee? And which one? Oh, okay, sorry. Actually, I'll rephrase that. Yes, they were very pleased. They're elated even, as the General Manager said. They're so happy that something's going to happen there, and they just looked at the video, and I think they had a sneak preview before it was released, and yeah, they just really, really happy and can't wait. And they know there is going to be a lockdown for a certain amount of time, but they're happy to tolerate and go through that to get to the end result. So yeah, no, they were very, very happy.
Thanks, Mr Mayor and Mr General Manager. On the 8th of March, on-site visit at proposed McKees Hill battery storage.
Yes, I was invited to this, even though this proposal is not in Richmond Valley, it's in Lismore area. There's some residents out there who are Richmond Valley, live in our area, and they are a bit concerned. Kevin Hogan was also in attendance, so they aired their views, and Richmond Valley has been approached by email by this company, and we have responded with concerns about the visual and the also maybe noise effects. They have taken, the company replied saying they have not done those studies yet on the noise, but they will address those. So we're aware of it. It was a productive meeting. There was no excitement on it. They were cool and express their views, and they seem a well-organised group, and they'll be keeping in touch with us as progresses. There's no DA lodged yet apparently, so with Lismore. But Lismore Council, it'll be a state significance, I think, Mr. General Manager. So Lismore will be out of that, but there's still a long way to go. And yeah.
Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Any other questions? I'll put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried. Delegates' reports. You have a delegates' report on page 11, but the recommendation is on page 10. A mover, please.
Move that way.
Councillor Humphries, and I'll second it. Councillor Humphries. I'll just mention that I actually put up a rescission motion asking not to sell the land, but the rescission motion was defeated. And we move on to an extraordinary meeting tomorrow to review and the future water strategy, which will be similar or very the same to the original one, except the Dunoon Dam, and that now will go out to public submission, where it will have groundwater from 1 to 4 different sources over years, also recycled sewage for potable water, and also desalination in the future. So they will go out to the community now for public comment.
The sale of the land where the proposed dam was to be, is how long is it going to take them to actually get to the stage where they actually sell off the land? Out of their coffers?
They're saying a couple of years or a few years, but some of these other studies into groundwater and desalination and recycled sewage could take longer. So if they sell the land before those studies prove viable, and they don't prove viable, they could be in a real mess. So they're saying 2 to 3 years, but some of the studies got timelines are longer than that. So it's taken 16 years to acquire that land, almost 50% of the dam site. So I just put a rescission motion up to hold it until after those studies were, but they didn't accept that.
I agree with you, Mr Mayor, that selling the land is very short-sighted, in my opinion. Is there any other avenues available to us to voice our concern about that? Like our local members, are they aware of it? Do you know what their opinion of it is? And is there anything else we
I've made federal and state, our local members aware of it. It is actually a state legislation, not federal. I think our local member is relaying our message through the halls of Parliament. Whether anything comes out of that, I don't know. I know Minister Pavey was in Lismore a few weeks ago. Her ear was chewed by a few people on the Osterville Plateau. They don't want groundwater there to be used. So I don't really know. We can keep trying. General Manager and I are actually going to Sydney to talk to 2 ministers. One of those is Minister Pavey, and the other one is Mr Toole about the roads. And we're mainly going down there about our own future, Richmond Valley's future water strategy for Casino. But I'm assure you that I will raise it with her too. And after that, I think the only maybe time will to progress it if a lot of negative feedback comes back on this public exhibition that's going out after tomorrow's meeting. So I think if the community are up in arms about that, Rouse will have to recalculate where they're going to go. Because if they don't go back to the dam, they're going to have to go straight to recycle sewage, and that's just not on the books for the state government. And then desal, well, the dam was the lowest cost, and once you start progressing through those, the cost becomes enormous. And the desalination in Lennox Head, that's one proposal, Niagara or South Ballina. And South Ballina is a massive cost. They've got to get the water then under the river over into Ballina and into reservoirs. So but I couldn't see a desal plant being accepted by the community of Lennox Head or Niagara. Niagara is actually a marine park, so I couldn't see.
Mr Mayor, the voting at that rescission motion, all the council, Councillor Humphries and yourself represent our views on the dam and,
Yes,
and the
yeah.
water strategies and stuff. Were all the councils represented, their councils that represent them, were they all aligned with their council? Or
No,
they weren't.
no, one
so
count-
if there's a change of,
Ballina asked for the dam to come back onto the into the calculations, but one of who is the chair of Rouse, he's not going by Ballina's wishes, but the other Ballina councillor is.
that council as a group, Ballina Council will be aware of that, no doubt.
Oh, they're aware of it, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
Councillor
If
Humphries?
I could make a comment. I felt like I had a really good handle on the proposal, the options put up. And reading, I've read the paper for tomorrow, we have a meeting for tomorrow, and it just doesn't seem to have any substance. There just doesn't seem to be like a clear way forward. Because from what I believe is Marron Creek is their first short to medium term. Ballina Council, I don't believe that our Ballina Council has actually given them the permission yet to use their assets. I can't believe that they blatantly refused to take into account that both Ballina Council, like the council, a constituent council, and the Richmond Valley Constituent Council, both wrote letters to Rouse stating that they would like to see the investigations on the dam continued. So that just wasn't even, taken into consideration from what I could tell. I think it's very misleading in the rescission motion that it states that 90% of the submissions, all of that, when it was less than 1%. So straight away, whether that's last week or like 20 years' time and people look at that, they'll think that there was 90% against when there wasn't. The bores, there's no certainty around the control over bores. There's no certainty about the water quality of the bores. And Ballina is really concerned about that drought, taking the drought emergency water from Austinville. And now Woodburn is going to be at the drought water there. The desal, most expensive, and it's kind of turned into a not in my backyard, which really worries me as well, because we've got Ballina with their bore fields and their farmers worrying about the bore water. We've got Byron Bay, like they've got their marine park, and they'll have to be, picked off for a desalination plant. We've got our Woodburn, so we're concerned about Woodburn, and then we've got Lismore that are totally against the Dunoon Dam, so we're really up against it. And I guess just to close, we had a workshop before the rescission motion was put forward the other day, and it was just, the staff were doing everything they could to put something together, but it just seemed like it was, yes, we'll have a look at this option, but there'll be that risk. We'll have a look at this option, but there'll be that risk. I think we'll be in a world of pain.
Just two quick things to follow up. That you've got Ballina Council who said to Rouse by a recommendation and that it be that the dam come back on the table because they've got concerns about using Austinville Plateau. Then you've got Rouse saying, no, we're not going to do that, but we want to buy your water plant off you to use your groundwater. And I'm thinking, well, that's not going to work. And the other thing is on the Austinville Plateau, Rouse's proposal is to use the lower aquifer because when they pump out of the upper aquifer, it lowers it for all the farmers. So they have to get a licence to go into the lower aquifer, but they don't have that connectivity between the upper and the lower aquifers. So that water could drain into the lower aquifer, so if they lower it, all the water could, we don't know. And that's why these studies need to be done. And I just think if they're going to take the time to do that, and then they find out they're not viable, what do we do? Because in 2024, that's when demand outstrips the supply. So if the studies take that long, 2024 is not far away, they'll be there at the study. If we get a dry spell and that doesn't prove viable, the dams still has to be investigated and all this, or you go to recyclable and that's not allowed. And I'll ask Minister Pavey about that. What's the prospects of that? And then go to desal. You just don't set a desal up in 6 months or 12 months. That's years. It's as Councillor Humphrey said, I think Rouse is in a world of pain, and just by a bad decision that had no warning to anyone. The staff were gutted, and right up till late November, it was all hands go. That was our preferred option, the dam. And then at the December meeting, the whole thing changed, and it's just very disappointing. Does that answer the questions? But I think we've monitored to answer your question, Councillor Simpson, and see what the feedback is from this public exhibition. And then if there's a bit of a push against that, I think there's going to have to be really addressed. And at that stage, maybe the government has to step in. Councillor Humphries, you want to put that motion in? All those in favour? Carried. Matters determined. Councillors, I usually go around the table first, but I'm going to call 14.1 myself. The other councillors?
15.1.
Is that 16 or 15?
15.
15, thank you.
16.1 for me, please.
16?
16.1, yep.
Any other councillors?
16.2 and 16.3, thank you.
Any others? All right, we have 14.2. Can I get a mover for 14.2, please? Councillor Morrissey. Seconder? Councillor Humphries. Put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. (14.1). Councillor, I'd ask you to go to page 25, please. Councillors, there's a down the bottom. There's a above the attachments. There's the draft conditions for the alternative recommendations provided for the consideration. I'd like to move 1 and 2, and also in 2, I'd like to include. If you read through the development application DA2, the number be approved in accordance with the proposed conditions of consent, and then include and reasons for supporting the variation, and then back to the report as contained in this report.
I'll second that.
And also, councillors, I'd like to add into the up the top of page 25, D, the proposed variation does not raise any matters of significance for state or regional environmental planning, and also and does not set a precedent for other similar DAs. I'd like that to go into that report, please. You happy with that as a seconder? Councillor. I'll just speak briefly. As you know, this came to the previous council meeting and we deferred it for further information. I believe that information we have now, I'm comfortable to move what I have. And the reason I called it, because I wanted to include those two little add-ons. The reason being on page 23, it does mention that development standard by setting undesirable precedent. I think we need to put precedent, address that statement in the report, and we did ask for some reasoning if council wanted to support it. I think that those reasons need to be noted in the recommendation. So I think I've said enough. We've had a lot of time on it, but I'm happy for anyone else now. Who seconded it? Councillor Hayes. Councillor Hayes.
Yeah, just comment. I've read the reports and I've gone back and read Newton, Denny and Chappelli's report on the issue and studied it pretty well. And what the council staff's come up with for that for an alternate decision or an alternate recommendation, those points there, A, B, C and D, have been addressed in Newton and Denny and Chappelli's original report. So I feel as though that we've tied it together now and we've got enough information there to take that recommendation on board and approve the thing, if the other councillors wish to. Yeah. I think it's a good result.
Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, I speak also in support of the alternate decision recommendation. Whilst I respect the views of the council staff who have recommended refusal, I do believe in this case, because the majority of the lot sizes in that area are already below the minimum lot size, and the fact is that whether this block of land 611 square metres or the 500 odd that it will be changed to, it can still in reality only have an attached dual occupancy and can still do that at 600 or 500. So I definitely support that motion.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
Totally support the alternate decision, for sure.
Okay. Thank you. I'll put that motion in. All those in favour? Carried. I think we go to 15.1 now, is that correct? Councillor Humphreys, is that? No? 15.1, page 20.
I'll move the recommendation just with a question, Mr Mayor.
Seconder?
Yeah, I'll second.
Councillor Hayes. Councillor Simpson.
Through you, Mr Mayor, over the page on page 30, third paragraph down, it says council withdrew its entire investment of $10,249,192 in the T Corp IM Cash Facility Trust due to the high risk of fund losing value and posting negative returns. Just a question in regards to the first page where we've got T Corp IM funds at 11,751,000. Is that before or after those funds were removed?
That's the, through you, Mr Mayor, that's the medium-term growth fund, so that's still in there. It's the actual short-term growth fund that we've pulled out. It was actually, it looked like it was going to go into negative and actually start chewing into our capital that we'd invested. So the medium-term growth fund is still there at 11 million, and we've just actually 2 days ago finally received the advice from Leminar Capital, our investment advisors, on the actual long-term growth fund, which is a new product that T Corp's put out. So we've got a meeting at the end of this week to decide if we'll move forward. It's obviously being a longer term investment, it's got more risk, but the 3-year average, it's been going for 3 years now, and the actual average that it's got is a lot higher than the shorter term investments. So we'll probably put some funding into that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers or questions? You want to write a reply? No. I'll put that motion in. All those in favour? Carried. Councillor Hayes, 16.1. Seconder, please. Councillor Humphries. Councillor Hayes.
In the report, it talks about the council consulting with frequent users, and then when you go through it in the consultation period, it says key external stakeholders such as frequent applicants during the period they're going to approach. I just wondering, have we had much input from the stakeholders today? Because it says there, however, it is proposed to extend the
Councillor Hayes.
Can you put
just
your-
flick your mic on?
Sorry.
It's up.
Please. Thank you.
Can you start again?
Can you say all that again?
I forget what I said already. In the start of the report, it says that everyone was approached, and it says frequent stakeholders were approached. I'm just wondering if we had much input from them at this point in time. And then it says later on, it's proposed to extend the exhibition period to 42 days to allow Easter school holidays and to seek input from key external stakeholders, such as frequent applicants during this period. So is that saying that we haven't had any, or where are we at with it?
Director Jane.
Through you, Mr Mayor, we did consult with a couple of our frequent users, let's call them that, with the drafting of the DCP to this stage. We propose to actively engage our other frequent users that we haven't heard from yet during the exhibition process. So we'll be attempting to make appointments and going and seeing them and sitting down and having a one-on-one discussion with some of the consultants and builders, architects, designers that regularly lodge applications with Richmond Valley Council to seek their feedback.
So feedback to date is positive? would
To
you say?
date, yes.
Did you want to speak on it, Councillor? No. No. Any other speakers?
Oh, Mr Mayor, just I'd be looking forward to some really positive input from submission period. I support it being extended, but I would like to comment on the huge task accomplished by the staff compiling the draft, and they've really demonstrated their expertise and their care and understanding of the communities within the Richmond Valley at each stage. I've really enjoyed each stage that we've been through with the staff. And I really think that the draft has achieved the aims that are on page 42, where we talk about ensuring consistency of development. That's always been a big one for us. Improve the local neighbourhood amenity and strengthen alignment with the existing New South Wales codes. And I think the staff also went perhaps above and beyond by researching other planning guidelines and any information from state government and other councils, local councils, really delving into making this almost, pretty close to the perfect document is what I'm actually feeling for the time being. I know things change and that will obviously happen with this as well. So I'm just looking forward to really positive comments and any comments that will actually improve the document as well.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Hayes, right a reply?
No, all good, thank you.
I'll put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried. 16.2 on page 58. Councillor Humphries, I believe.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll move the recommendation.
Second.
Is that you, Councillor Morrissey? Yep. Councillor Humphries.
Mr Mayor, I just wanted to speak briefly to this because I'd never heard of a restrictor. I thought I was reading the wrong word when I first saw that, so I've not heard of this. But when you see that council has $700,000 or nearly $701,000 in arrears, is that to be? Certainly, it's timely to do something about it. I just thought it was important to make sure that the community was aware of the exceptions for those water restrictions around the dialysis patients and the hospitals and schools and preschools and the retirement homes, and also that there's a trigger. We'll start off sort of not being too lean and too mean, but a trigger and stages that it can be changed. So I really hope that it's been successful for other councils, and I hope that it can be successful for Richmond Valley as well. Thank you.
Any other speakers? No? Want to write a reply? I'll put that motion in. All those in favour? Carried. And 16.3, Councillor Humphries, draft New South Water strategy.
Move the recommendation, thank you.
Seconder,
Second.
Councillor Lyons.
Mr Mayor, I guess I read this one with just quite a bit of concern when we read about the Richmond River and the flows. We're all aware that Council's undertaking a water security study for Casino, and I just wondered, talking about all the options that Rouse has, Council's thinking, you know, might be identified in the future as to joining Rouse with their system. What other options might we be grappling with at the moment? Is that...
Mr General Manager.
Look, I think it's reasonably straightforward. The alternative is either groundwater bores or tapping into a large dam somewhere. If there was one, I mean, I think seriously, you know, in 20, 30 years, would be a fair chance if the Dunoon Dam was built that the casino would certainly, you know, with growth and change over time, having a large dam across the northern rivers would be beneficial for everyone in this region. So, yep, the short answer is bore fields, but I think there has been some work done on those, and they're not, you know, the prospects aren't too positive. So yeah, it's really river flows or potential future connection to Rouse.
Thank you, and that brings me to the point that I'd be wanting to speak to the General Manager at Rouse tomorrow, because it is really worrying that the overall message here for the new modelling is that the water supplies could be less secure than first thought. So if that's happening across New South Wales, I'd like to be confident that the modelling might be different for Rouse, but if they're going to be less than what they're expecting as well, then it adds another layer of it's very problematic, isn't it? Thank you.
And we'll certainly reflect that in the submission that we will make as part of the strategy, is the risk to this. So I suppose further to the previous question about, it's just a matter of reminding our governments of the risks that this could leave this region in the future.
Thank you.
I have made our local members aware, both federal and state, about the grants they've been giving councils in the area for industrial development, even over at Lismore, as well as us, for industrial. And I said to them, well, if you're giving all this money, but one day there may not be the water to have industries. And, you know, so, but I think on page 65, the second paragraph, the draft New South Wales strategy emphasised the need to provide greater certainty to regional businesses that rely on secure access to water, to invest in research and development to improve water productivity in industries, and to identify suitable infrastructure options to each region of New South Wales. This is particularly relevant to the Richmond Valley as Council explores the opportunities around our area, recent designated as a regional jobs precinct. And it's all right, as I said, to have all these money thrown at you or support from state government, but if you haven't got the water, you can't have the industries. And we all know you need water to survive. So I think that paragraph for us gives us a good way to start a submission. And we'll be making that not only about the Dunoon Dam, but about our own casino water strategy. So with the Minister when we speak to her on Thursday. But I'll just touch on what the General Manager said about a regional dam. You may not recall, but could have been 10, 15 years ago, actually in the drought, Coffs Harbour put signs up, no tourists. They didn't want tourists because they didn't have enough water for even their locals. And they was turning people away. They've since built the Shannon Dam, and that now supplies Coffs Harbour and Grafton. So that Clarence and Coffs Harbour area has got a regional dam. The Clary Hall Dam up in Tweed, going forward, one of the proposals is to lift the wall on it and make it bigger, and then also in years to come, because of the population growth, there is another dam proposed in an area up there. And I'm going back to it, the preferred option for Richmond Valley area was the Dunoon Dam. Well, it's been taken off the drawing board. And when there's been two of those other valleys that are joining us, very successful using dams, it really makes you ask the question, why? Councillor Humphries?
No, thank you.
I'll put that recommendation then. Those in favour? Everyone. Page 66 is actually unnumbered, but 66, item 17, matters for information. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Morrissey. Lyons. Councillor Lyons. Councillor Morrissey. No. Any other councillors on the matters for information?
Just to comment on our grants, I was sitting there at breakfast the other morning reading through this stuff, and I was just flicking through the numbers. I've got my thing on. And I didn't realise we've got nearly 1.1 million worth of grants that have been approved, and council's input's $38,000 across all those grants. It's not bad. And then when you get over to the next ones where you've got grants that have been received, we're $19 million for $20,000 input. Yeah, just something you don't realise, all that grant money and what it does. Yeah.
I think that's...
And if ratepayers realise that the amount we put in for the amount we get, it's pretty good value.
And I think a lot of that comes from having a good relationship with our local members and the state government. Any other councillors? I'd just like to highlight page 78, 17.3 about Women Try a Trade program. I think that's an outstanding achievement by our council. The old traditional days of a man has this job and a woman has that job, I think they're gone. And as we know, the women can handle a machine as good as any man nowadays, so that's good to see. Any other speakers? I'll put that motion in. All those in favour? Carried. Page 83, item 18, questions on notice. Councillor Simpson, I see there is a answer to your previous question.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I didn't like the answer, to be honest, and I don't think our community will either. I mean, it's very difficult to go back to our community and say, sorry, there's a safety issue here, sure, we all acknowledge it, but no one's going to do anything about it.
Well, while the highway, until it's handed over, but as I said earlier, we'll be meeting with the Minister for Roads on Thursday. We'll definitely raise that issue for you.
Well, thank you, Mr Mayor, because with due respect, I wrote here, it feels like a bureaucratic passing the buck.
Can I just stop? I know you don't like the answer, but can you move the motion?
Yes, move the motion, Mr Mayor.
Second.
Second.
Humphries. Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, I find that difficult to swallow, and I find it very difficult to talk to our community members. I mean, the police are actually calling me and asking me what's happening with it. They see the need for it, and we're just saying, well, sorry, we don't own the road, and until such time as we do, even though it's no longer the Pacific Highway, we've been saying to people for years, whilst it's a Pacific Highway, it can't happen, which they understood. They now know it's not the Pacific Highway, and it's bureaucratic crap. Sorry, that's
That's
opinion.
all right. We can't go any higher than we will on Thursday. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's
I
in
noticed
the-
yesterday I did a inquiry with council for a flood study, and it was a Pacific Highway address, and it actually come up at Lang's Way. So the addresses have changed. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr General Manager.
I was just going to comment that certainly in the briefing note that we've prepared for the meeting with the Minister on Thursday. First, I've heard about the police view, so I would encourage the police to raise that matter formally with us, but also with Transport for New South Wales, and we'll obviously take that on board because that's the first I've heard of that. The more people are raising these issues, the more weight that enables us to put on to Transport for New South Wales. Ultimately, it's their responsibility. We can keep raising the issue. I suppose if the chamber and businesses down there are really passionate about this, it doesn't hurt them to drop a letter directly to the local member. I think that sort of stuff, we can advocate, but if others in our community are advocating as well, it all helps push, whatever the issue is. So I'd encourage people to do that. I get the frustration. I've stopped in Woodburn a few times since it stopped, and I agree at times that pedestrian crossing would be useful.
Thank you. I'll speak to the police and have them put pen to paper in the Chamber of Commerce as well.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. Item 19, questions for the next meeting in writing. Has any councillor got a question for the next meeting? Nil. Matters referred to closed committee. Could I have a motion, please?
Move.
Go in. Seconder,
Yeah, I'll second.
councillor Hayes. Mr General Manager, has there been any written representation made regarding this meeting going to the closed council?
No, nothing received.
Are there any verbal representations from the members of the public? Nil. Councillors, I'll put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried. Mover was councillor Morrissey. On. Mr. General Manager, could you read the resolutions from closed council? They are as all.
So the item 20.1, tender, construct bridge Crown Road, Busby's Flat. Resolution is that council awards the tender to MCS Limited for the construction of Crown Road Bridge near 2260 Busby's Flat Road, Busby's Flat, at the assessed tendered rate of $608,933.67 inclusive of GST. And the second point is that it authorises the General Manager enter into and endorse relevant contracts and documents, including affixing the sale of council, where appropriate, generally in accordance with the details contained with this report. Item 20.2, council resolved to accept tender from Santin Earth Moving, which represents the best value for council at $202,004.30 exclusive of GST, and the General Manager be authorised to negotiate and finalise the terms and conditions of any contract or agreement, including extension of the scope of works in line with the content of this report and the available budget, and affixing the sale of council where necessary. Item 20.3, which is the proposed purchase of Casino Bowling Club land. Council resolved to authorise the General Manager to negotiate the purchase of the land generally in accordance with the details contained within the report, and the Council authorises the General Manager to enter into and endorse relevant documents, contracts and transfers, including affixing the seal of council where appropriate, for the purpose of the land generally in accordance with the details contained in this report. I might get Director Jones to read out the last one.
In the matter of item 20.4, General Manager's Annual Review Performance Review, February 2021, the recommendation reads that the panel has agreed and recommended council approves that 1, in accordance with clause 8.3 of the Standard Contract of Employment General Managers of Local Government in New South Wales and the guidelines for appointment and oversight of general managers, a discretionary increase as outlined in this report be awarded to the General Manager's total remuneration package in recognition of the results achieved for the period, the high standards set and achieved by the General Manager and in line with the market remuneration rates in like-sized councils. And 2, the Mayor, the General Manager and the Facilitator are to develop a draft performance agreement for the coming year for review and adoption by all councillors.
Thank you. And thank you, councillors, staff and all those out there watching on live streaming. Everyone keep safe and look forward to catching up again at next month's meeting. Thank you. Have a safe trip home, everyone.